Welcome, everybody. You thought that Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora was set for 2022, but I told you just to be ready. Because in our Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. time slot, Eastern time all across the world, we finished up our regular broadcast shows. However, I felt the need to throw one more in there and to have it here with Andrea Smith because we have had a lot of fun with you here in 2022. And as we get set for 2023, we wanted to bring you a show that provided a lot of different conversation as we get ready for the ball to drop and prepared for 2023. So, Andrea, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well. And can you share the mug that you showed me because you were so proud of yourself and I'm super proud of you. So,
Man of Steel.
So there you go, Superman. And we had a conversation about this. So this is my Spider-Man thermos. We might as well have it on the air because I want to know what people think, and they can obviously respond in and let us know. But I have this. I'm big on drinking water, every day, a lot of water. And it was funny because I went on a date recently, and a girl asked me within the first 10 minutes. I knew this was a bad sign. She said, "What's your drink of choice?" And I was like, alcohol, because she was only talking about beer and IPA, which I didn't know what IPA stood for. I do know now, India Pale Ale. So I was like, water is my drink of choice, but she was like, what's your drink? Like, what's your mixed drink of choice? Ridiculous. But anywho, it didn't work out. But this is my Spider-Man thermos. It was given to me by my ex who stared at the wall and was insane. We talked about her before. So my question to Andrea off the air, but I figured we should do it on the air to let people weigh in, is do you keep this? Because in my world, I don't have a thermos bigger. These are not cheap, right? And I love Spider-Man, but I don't like to keep things from exes if I don't have to. So the question was, do I keep it or don't I keep it? And I wanted to open the floor to you.
Yeah, my answer is yes, because it's functional and you like it. And my response is if it's t-shirts or things like that, eventually you got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be honest, I have held on to things probably much longer than I should have, you know what I mean? Like t-shirts or whatnot. And I can recall like at some point, like so many years later, finally getting rid of something. And it's like a death.
I love throwing stuff out.
I do too, but for whatever reason, it's like a death. It's emotional death. But I would say I would personally keep that thermos because it is functional for you and you love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I kept it, because I'm like, my other ones just aren't as big and I can put like a ton of water in here and I drink it so much. And so I was like, well, it does add to my health,
right?
But it also, I'm like, ugh, it came from her. But I threw out a bunch of stuff because I had never gotten t-shirts where like, when like somebody gets you a t-shirt and it's like we're together forever and one person's got the date and the other person has this. She bought those and my mom's like, why are you going to throw those out? And I said, because I don't want them. And then she's like, well, give them to the homeless. I go, no, because I don't want somebody homeless wearing like Dan and her name forever. I didn't want that. I got enough clothes to give.
How long are you guys together?
10 months. I didn't buy the shirts. I didn't buy the shirts, Andrea. I was just an innocent bystander to shirt buying.
When I said t-shirts, I meant like if you have like his old t-shirt or something, you know what I mean? I didn't mean buy you a t-shirt. I would let it all go. And you know what? That thermos, though, I will tell you this. If you could find one you really like other than that one, then let it go and to the homeless.
Yeah, no, I would definitely give this. Because the thing is, like, I want the homeless to have shirts that don't remind me of crazy people. And so, because I feel like they deserve better than what I got. That's how I feel about it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I love getting rid of stuff. And so there was this one time where I wanted to throw out a bag of clothes and I was at Target and I forgot that I had the bag and I was like, oh, I'll just throw it in the Target trash. But there was a picture frame in there with our picture. So I had to walk back to my car, take the picture out, rip that up, and then looked at the frame, and the frame had like our names on it. And I was like, well, I can't throw this out in the Target thing. So I took the bag of clothes and I took the picture, tossed it in there, and then I had a Monster I was drinking and I poured that on top of it and I left it at Target. So
I have to say, we just met not that long ago.
Yeah.
However, I do feel like your longtime listeners are seeing such a different side of you with this type of segment because the the links that you go to really wash your
Yeah,
hands of somebody are extreme
I
and
love it.
savage, I must say, savage.
You have to, because if you realize what I've been through, I
But is
feel
it a
like,
mind thing? Is it like a mindset? Like, okay, if I do all these things to these, like pour the drink on it and light it on fire, like, is that what you're saying? Is that like in your mind, you're like, all right, I really got rid of it?
for me, it's they threw me in the trash when they said that they loved me and they cared. So I have to find peace with just taking the stuff, releasing it of myself. I'm not like a savage, horrible person. I just kind of like quietly am like, you know what? I got to throw this stuff out. I got to be done with it. Now, my ex wife, we had a ton of frames that people bought us, really expensive wedding frames. We never put
Yeah.
any pictures in them,
Yeah.
none of that stuff. I'm gonna have a garage sale and I'm gonna make some dough off of her stuff. So
Okay. So I will say that you had expensive frames you got from a wedding and you guys never put pictures in them. I mean, that might have been a sign from the
yeah,
beginning.
little bit. Yeah, she
Like, hey, maybe we're not really feeling this so much.
it took her a year and a half to change her name because she was afraid to go to City Hall because she thought they would do something to her.
Stop. Let me tell you something. I never changed my name.
Really?
Been married 10 years, never changed my name.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me say this. Let me say this. I was not living up here in Jacksonville at the time. It was just us two down in South Florida, no kids, something like that. And I always thought, time just kept passing. I kept thinking, well, at the time, the home that we were living in, I had purchased. So it was in my name, all these things. There was a lot of like financial reasons at the time.
Yeah.
And my dad worked in the same industry. So having the same last name as my dad was actually, I mean, there's a lot of conversations about Nepo babies going on right now in the media, but that was a good thing for me because people really were impressed when they met me and like, oh, that's, Mike Smith's daughter and whatever. So it was kind of like a proud thing at first. And then I thought, well, when I have kids, I'll do it. But now it's like, we've been married 10 years this April. Like, what's the point? What's the point?
Yeah. I mean, some people do it. I will say this, my ex-wife never changed her name. Took her a year and a half to change it to my name, and then she never changed it back. However,
Because it's so much work.
yeah, but
I get it.
why would you want to keep so when people bump into her and go, "Oh, you're a Tortora. Are you related to Dan? You're related to the broadcast?" What's she gonna say? I'm a cousin? You know what I mean? It's just a very weird.
Ex-husband. Yeah, I'll say this. Do you know that we are one of the only cultures in the world that requires the woman to change her last name?
I did not know that.
Yes, I found that out when I was researching all my reasons and to not seem like a bad person. But actually, in a lot of cultures, the woman does keep her last name as a like tribute to her family,
Yeah.
things like that. So I'm an only child. I'm very in the middle when it comes to like masculine and feminine roles anyway in our relationship and as a person. So I mean, I'm super proud of my dad. If that sounds silly, but I am. I'm like, I don't want to. And if you have a last name like Smith, so easy. Why would you change that?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a very easy name, but so my last name, I'm carrying it for my family, but my cousins took my grandparents' last name from like Italy that was before the one that my mom has. So I'm thinking about if I ever am to have children, if I either hyphenate their last name so that both of my grandfathers can live on, or
Right.
if I give their middle name, if I make their middle name my mom's maiden name, because I don't want to carry one of them. I want to carry both.
Yeah, if I'd had a second boy, the my mom's maiden name would have either been the first or the middle name too, because I kind of felt the same way about that kind of stuff. So I get that.
There's a way around it. So I love that how we went from throwing stuff in the trash and pouring drinks on it to sentimental value. So end of 2022,
Yep.
what have you learned about yourself?
I have learned about myself. I'll tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you have unhealed drama, trauma, things like that, like in your past, and I think that things like that can creep back up in situations. So I've kind of learned that, not necessarily about myself, but about people, about, things that I've gone through, things like that. And I really kind of want to work on that healing in 2023. And I've started kind of working towards that and kind of releasing some of these things, but I definitely want to work on that. I've learned that I can have it all, even though there was a bit of time that I thought, I think women in general lose so much of themselves when they become a mom. And listen, for some women, that's all they want is to be a mom, and that's okay. You know what I mean? But that's not who I am as a person. Like I love being a mom, don't get me wrong, but I also love my time going away from my kids. It's like I've seen a meme about this where it's like my number one thing to do is be with my kids and also be away from my kids. And I have really reconnected with a lot of close friends in the last year and started having like, a girls' night or a weekend away with my friends and things like that. And that kind of getaway, feeling like you're a person and not having to feel like you're a servant to a little child, it has been mind-blowing for me, to be honest with you. So I hope to in 2023 really continue that and kind of self-serving a little bit, self-love on that piece of it. But I'd say that that's the biggest thing that I took away this year is like that you can be, a great mom, a great career woman, and still have a life outside of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great, to balance both, because you can't. And I tell people this when they get married, as someone who learned from mine, is that I tell them you are responsible for taking care of yourself.
Yep.
It is still not their responsibility to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. You
Right.
hope that your partner will, but you have to take care of yourself, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all of that, monetary. And at the same time, you have to remember that you are husband and wife first, then you are parents. Because a lot of people that have kids,
Yeah.
they stop being intimate, they stop being
Yeah.
affectionate, they stop going on
Yeah.
trips together, they stop sitting and talking about their day, they don't even
Yeah.
eat dinner together, so I think my best advice to people has been, hey, remember that you're a husband and a wife first,
Yeah.
and then go about the rest of it. That doesn't mean to forget about your kids. It means to remember yourself, which I think people, they throw so much. Oh, I got to take Betty to dance class. I got to take Steve to basketball, and we got to do this. We got to do that. I got to get this done for my, and it's like, I'm happy that you're doing all of that for your kids, but what are you doing to sit with your husband and talk to him about his promotion, or sit with your wife and talk to her about the, new project that she's working on and what she's happy about, or whatever it may be? I feel like people get lost in my kids, my kids, my kids, and they forget that if you're not good to each other, no matter
Yeah.
what you do for your kids to bring them to practice and help them make their volcano for class and all that, eventually you're setting a horrible influence on what a marriage is to them. So
Yeah.
you could be really great parents and then really terrible at being married. And no matter how good you are to your kids, they're going to suffer from thinking, oh, this relationship is good enough. And it's not. So I
Right.
always caution my friends. And I told one of my friends, I said, I can't come to your house, because if I come to your house, I'm going to tell your wife how I feel. And I don't want to get kicked out of your house.
Yeah,
Because like,
you mentioned that once before about you have that friend. I think that's a reason why you see a lot of couples like uh when the kids get older, they get divorced or whatnot because of the simple fact that they really didn't have a connection anymore anyway. And
yeah,
I think that I read somewhere, I don't know if I told you this, I read somewhere that like 80% of married couples are likely not married to the person they were most connected to
yes,
actually have built that life, of like staying. Because I think a lot of couples get so far past, and I see this with friends and stuff too. Like you get so far past just involved in the kids that you almost don't even want to. There's so much resentment and things like that. You almost don't even want to try to build that relationship back up. You no longer feel that way about that person. And I think that, I mean, again, I think that probably people married wrong in the first place. And you know what I mean? They probably got married for the wrong reasons. But, I think when you get to that point, but yes, to your point, I agree with you. You got to put your marriage first in order to make it last. And if you don't, then you're probably headed to a bad place.
yeah. I had somebody say to me, they said, the person that you have the most intimate connection with is not the person you marry. And I was like,
Yeah,
then I'm not getting married. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, oh yeah, the
I
person that you
know.
have like the wildest night with, that you have the most fun with, that's just like
Yeah.
all energy and just like passion. You don't marry that person. And I was like,
Why though? It's like,
Why are
why?
you like, that's idiocy to me. Like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna sleep next to somebody and think about, oh man, I wish I was that girl with that
Yeah.
girl longer and stuff. Like, I guess I just see a lot of people settle. And
Oh, for sure. For sure. You know, it's the thing is like whoever said that though, like they probably are living that life too, where they didn't marry the person that they ultimately wanted to. So it becomes like a fact in their mind of, you know, this is how it is. But I will tell you, I mean, my thought has always been this. Why? Like, why does it have to be so complicated?
no,
And why can't you have it all? Like back to that whole have it all statement. Why can't you have it all?
yeah,
I do know couples that are extremely in love and they are a team and they are like, you know, they love going out together and doing things together and they've been together a long time. And it's like, why can't everybody have that? And again, it's back to your point. Are people settling?
right. Well, and
You
they
know, I
are.
think the timeline of life, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you all those things.
Yeah.
Are people settling?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are. See, my thing is when
Me
I
too.
realized that I was settling, I got divorced. And I
Yeah.
mean, there were things
You
that,
didn't have kids involved though. And I think
no,
that I know
but
people that are going through things like this right now. And it's very challenging. I mean, when you have kids, especially when they're little, it's challenging to kind of, it's almost a wonder that anybody, being somebody who is married and sees, you know, other couples were around this type of stuff all the time. It's like, it is a wonder to me how people get divorced at all.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you know, you might have a bad day, but then the next day everything's fine. And you're back to doing things with the family and the kids again. So it's like, it's just, it's confused. The whole thing is confusing. And listen, I'm not saying anything's wrong with anything. Do whatever you need to do to make yourself a happy person.
Yeah.
You know? But it's just, it's, such a conflicting feeling because people care about their children and their families so much in that family unit
Yep.
that it's hard to make that decision, I think, because if you wait 24 hours, you might change your mind.
Well, and that was the thing is I'm not hasty, you know, like I'm not somebody who's like, oh my God, I gotta, you know, it was a year and a half of me going,
Yeah.
this is
Build
not
up.
good. Right. And it wasn't good at all. And then at the end of it all, there was like some things that made the decision extremely easy
Right.
that I was
Right.
like, oh, okay, so that's what we do now. But, you know, so I mean, I knew that but I knew on my wedding day that, and I thought I said it out loud. It was crazy. I was standing outside, they brought us food. And I remember she was sitting on the bench, I was standing, and I might have had like my foot up on the bench. And I said it in my head, and I thought I said it out loud, and I looked at her, and obviously I didn't. In my head, I was like, shouldn't I be happier today? Like, I'm not happy right now. Like, and it hit me. And then there was things she did in the day that were like, she was like all about the money. How much money did people give us? She was like rolling in the money on the bed. And I just remember at 11 o'clock, I sat at the edge of the bed and I'm like, do I run to the church right now and say, don't file this? That was a feeling I never told anybody. And then I go to the end of my relationship and I'm like, wow, she was still about the money. She was still selfish. She still wasn't intimate. She still didn't think about my feelings. So what I felt in the beginning was right. But I was like, you know, I made a commitment to God. I have to follow through. I'm the type of person where I don't QUIT. I can't even say the word.
Me neither.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
I get that.
so I had to get to a point where it was just not healthy and not good and not safe for me that I could do that because I mean I tell people it was one of the smartest decisions I've ever made for my health, but I mean you make a decision, you know you're doing the right thing, and then here we are in 2022.
You're doing the
Oh,
society right thing. Back up.
wow.
You make a decision, you're doing society's right thing. You're
I'm doing
getting
my right
married.
thing.
Okay, yeah, but for the most people, they're chasing after what they're supposed to do to be happy.
Yeah,
Get married, have kids, get a dog, have a white picket fence.
yeah. And so what I did was because I thought like, oh, almost is good enough. It's not, folks.
Almost doesn't
Almost is not
count.
good enough.
Almost doesn't count.
Almost doesn't count. Who sang that song?
Are you asking me again? Seriously?
Yeah,
Mark
why am I?
Will sang it once for the country version, and then Brandy.
Yeah, Brandy sang almost doesn't count. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
had it on CD. I know I asked you again. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So
you know about that. So this guy, I've got to send you this on Instagram. His name's Stefan Speaks. Do you follow him?
I don't think so. I'm
Okay. He's like a book writer about relationships, whatever.
gonna look him up right
He's,
now.
he's the same guy who said the other thing. He says that the majority of, he mainly speaks to women, but it's great for men too, especially, you know, because you are godly and things like that. I think you'll like this guy's what he posts, but he says specifically that most of the people that relationships end, marriage, whatever, they knew the day they got married that they were probably making the wrong decision.
Yeah, and
He
I
says
did.
that in there.
I knew that. He actually said you may just need to be alone for a while until you feel yourself again. And
Yep.
I feel that because I didn't do that, and then I did, and I had to break in order to. And it's funny because I'm going to go back to Black Panther Wakanda Forever for this. But
I can't wait to hear how it relates, to be honest.
so no, because when Black Panther, and this is like no secret to anybody, when he dusted away in Endgame or in Infinity War from Thanos, so his girlfriend Nakia, she said, because they're like, where have you been? She said, I had to leave. She said, I had to let myself break. I had to let myself break. I couldn't just carry on and pretend like everything was okay because he wasn't here, because to, you know, and so she gets into some more stuff. But, you know, that whole feeling of I had to break. I had to. I had to get to a point where I felt powerless, no control, you know, just why God, why? I had to get there.
Mhm.
And it was her, it was a lot of things, but I had to get to that point. And ironically, that point that I got to ended up creating the most healthy that I've ever been mentally and physically. So I needed to break in order to make myself come back again and be stronger this time. And I love that. I mean, I tell people all the time, it's okay to break, it's okay to feel powerless, you know, don't hurt people, but it's okay to feel that I don't think I'm making the right decision. I don't think this is right for me because I didn't have kids. And you said it was easier to have a divorce because you didn't
Yeah.
have kids. I didn't have kids with her because something inside of me said, if you have kids with this woman, she will
Yeah.
take them from you. And
Ooh.
I couldn't, I will never be the every other Saturday dad. I
Right.
would sleep in her driveway. I would. I'd like sleep in the driveway in my
Yeah.
car, you know,
Yeah.
like getting frostbite because there's no way that I could leave
Uh-huh.
and let her raise my kids. So, you know, to me it was and that was a point where I really knew something. It was 2 weeks before she left and I didn't know she was leaving. It's 2 weeks before she did something not great. And when she did that thing and I was like, "All right, well, we're not going to stay in the same house anymore if this is how you treat me." But 2 weeks before I sat on the step, I still can't say it cuz it gives me pain in my heart. I was going
Oh,
to call my mom and my dad separately and
yeah.
say, I don't think it's so hard to say. I don't think you're going to be grandparents because I
Right.
couldn't do it with her.
Right.
And then so to know that and to leave, but here's the thing, we're in 2022, you fast forward like almost 5 years and you
Right.
say, "Okay, Dan, how's life going?" Life is good.
Right.
But the world out there has gotten so different in dating
Yeah.
that the being a good man and trying to treat a woman right is so defeating lately. And it's just like, I can't meet somebody, go on a date for 5 minutes without hearing just something that makes me go, oh my God. Like, I just, what did I tell you off the air? I don't think I said it on the air that I just went on a date and the girl goes, first 10 minutes, she goes, "What's your drink of choice?" And I'm studying the food menu. She's
Right.
hardcore studying the beer menu like it's a
Right.
test. And she's like, "Oh, I like dark IPAs. I like this. The darker, the better. They got to be heavy.
Right.
What's your drink of choice?" And I was like, "Water. Water is my drink of choice." So, you know, it's not the same dating now. So I'll tell you this, Andrea, what I realized about my life is I made the right decision
Mhm.
almost 5 years ago.
Right.
But I understand why people stay out of
Yep.
fear because in the almost 5 years since I made that right decision, I am very disappointed in the dating world.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think you're going to have to just keep believing that it's out there and almost like in a manifest kind of way. Like, I do believe that I don't believe that nice guys always finish last. And I know we talked about that on one of the other episodes, but I know it's the saying, but I think that in the end, they don't finish last. Um, and it's, you know, it's sad. It's sad for somebody like me that, you know, is married and has all the things that people want. You know, it's sad for me to hear like a friend say, you know, their fears about not having those things, because you just think to yourself, like, God, do I know anybody? Like, I would love to, you know, help this person find somebody. And I gotta say, I mean, I mentioned this before, my track record is really good with helping my friends find people, but I just believe that there's somebody out there for you. You know what I mean? I just don't believe that it's, you know, if this is what you really want, is to be in a committed relationship and have a family and stuff like that. I just don't, there's so many people out there that really don't want that, I would say. And they're out dating and doing whatever. And like, it's probably easier for them. But I mean, there's a lot of women out there that want those things too. There really is. I mean, there's a lot of women who are hoping to find somebody that
Maybe in
want
Florida.
to be
Maybe
married.
maybe they're in Florida.
I feel like there is a lot of women. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I personally, I'm granted I'm older. Like, you know, I'm not hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds, but I feel like my single type of friends or divorced friends or whatever, like they definitely want to be married. Dating, it seems very exhausting.
It is. I call it mindless information.
I
When
know.
somebody's giving me all this information and I'm like, are we going to talk tomorrow? Are we actually going on this date? Because if we're not, then I don't want to hear about your brother for 37 minutes. Like
Right.
I
Stop
just
wasting my time.
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
I've had girls talk to me on the phone for 2 to 4 hours and just information and nothing comes from it. And then they're like, you know, you talked a lot. And I was like, if I talked a lot, why do I know 72 things about your life? Like I know all these things about your life that you
right.
should not be telling a stranger. I mean, the things these women tell you first day on the phone. And I'm like, I had one woman tell me that she was still in love with her ex in our first conversation. And I was like, do you know? It's kind of like gauge the audience, right? If you're doing if you're doing a comedy show in the South and you have a lot of Southern jokes about people in the South, probably save those for Philadelphia. You know, don't
Sure.
say them in Houston. But but
So is there any way, like on like your dating profiles and stuff, to put out there like, and I'm not up to date on the dating profiles, because like I said, when I was single, they weren't really out there that much. But
I don't
like, is
like
there any
them.
way to put it out there that like, look, I am only looking for serious people looking to get married?
I feel like
Can you
that
vet
makes
it?
I feel like that's like crazy people are like moths to a light. If you say I only want serious, then all those moths will like fly to me and be like, "What? We want to disrupt this a little bit." I'm like, let me tell you something about my dating apps, and you and I have talked about this before. I have been on them and off them like flowers that don't know when to bloom, right? They're like out, they're in, they're out. And I got off of them. I was on Match and again, Match, you worked for my buddy. And I thought Match would be good because Match has been around the longest and whatever. I thought it had some reputation, but it let me down in 1,000 different ways. And you have to buy a subscription just to talk to somebody, and it's ridiculously expensive. So I bought a 3 month. This is how much I don't like apps. I have a month and a half left. I deleted my profile and I was like, you know what? Either give me my money back or keep my money, because you're sending me girls that are far away. And you can put presets in saying, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. It's like they're doing the opposite. They're like, oh, you want somebody who smokes weed and doesn't care about this and hates kids. And I'm like, no, that's exactly not what I asked for. So I got off a Match. I have tried multiple apps, Andrea, and each one of them have led me to a woman who has made me fear for my safety or made me feel some type of like, what type of world does this person live in? And I know they're like, well, guys are on here, they just want to have sex. Well, not me. Not me. You know, and I feel like in 2022, women are like, we're going to be the one night stand. We're going to show you, we're going to pay you guys back. What they're forgetting is I'm not Roger from 3 months ago and Steve from 10 years ago. I'm Dan. I've never slept with a woman in a one night stand. And if I did anything of that caliber, I'd beat myself up before my dad or my mom got to me. So
Yeah.
dating today on the dating apps is so discouraging that it's like I go on and then out of boredom you do it and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna stop, and I never get anything out of it. And I honestly feel like it messes with my peace of mind. I think it
Yeah.
causes me to be more anxious about it. When I'm off of it, I'm very peaceful.
I can understand that too. I mean, I listen, my hope for you in 2023 is that you meet somebody good. I mean,
Thank
maybe
you.
your travels though. I mean, you're traveling around a lot.
I do travel a lot. I do get to, I get, I mean, Florida's a second home, as people know. I get to go to New
Right.
York, and I mean, I haven't been to the West Coast yet. We have reached listeners and like viewers and stuff on the West Coast, which I appreciate y'all, but I haven't been out there yet. I've been Midwest, up and down the East Coast, and out of the country a little bit. And I mean, it's great to travel, and it's great to do all this stuff. I just feel like I'm like, is my aura off? Like, is something off here? Because I know that I've like platonically given compliments to a total stranger and gotten an attitude from the girl that makes me like want to be pissed at like every woman out there. One girl, she had nice shoes on, and I said she had sneakers on, and they were orange, and I'm from Syracuse, and she said hi to my buddy, and she was like, "Oh, have a good night." She sat next to him, and then I was like, "Oh, you got nice shoes," and she looked down at the ground, and she was like, "Thank you," and I was like, "No one's trying to sleep with you. I just said your shoes were nice." So, I mean, it's weird because I'm a nice guy. I say please and thank you. I'm always nice to servers and restaurants and stuff. And I'm like, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Do they think the goatee means that I'm going to rob a bank? What are they afraid of? Because, and I had somebody say that to me. They said, what would you do if if women don't want to date guys with facial hair, what are you going to do? I said, I guess I'm going to wait until somebody does, because the goatee is part of who I am and I don't want to shave it. You know,
Right.
I don't think you should.
And who is she to tell you how to look anyway? Like,
Well, if you,
I hate people who try to change people. Like, be who you are and like want that person, accept that person, because if you're bringing somebody into your life and you're already trying to change things about them, guess what? It's not going to work. People spend way too much ignoring red flags right from the beginning. I wouldn't even humor somebody that asked you to change your goatee.
no, and the thing is, and what I found, and
No.
I feel like God does tests, because the last date I went on, this girl was like, this is no joke. It came out of nowhere. It was like, I like to drink. It was the IPA. It was, what's your drink of choice? Then I told her if I drink anything, I like sweet stuff, because I don't like to know that it tastes like alcohol. And then I got a look, and I know what that look was. It was like, are you a real man type of thing? And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I like Moscato. Okay. I'm Italian, live with it. I love it. I'm not going to apologize. And then she said out of nowhere, you could appreciate this. She goes, by the way, totally hate Orlando, not a fan of Disney. And then all my friends were like, idiot. You know what I mean? Like, but I was like, why do you hate Orlando? She goes, I don't know. I just don't like that. And then she likes yachts. And I said, name your like favorite things in life. Just a broad topic. Just name whatever your favorites are. She was like, family, friends, food, money. And I was like, money's a favorite thing. And she's like, well, what am I going to do without money? And I was like, well, that's a different conversation. You need money to do stuff, but I mean, in a way you do, in a way you don't. I mean, you do some things for free in nature and stuff, but it was just, there was so many signs of this person is nothing like you. And then she was like, we got a lot of things in common, but I just don't feel a dating connection. And I was like, I would be marrying my ex-wife if I even dated this girl a second time. I mean, money, hates Disney, doesn't like, wants to drink all the time. It's just, and it's weird to me to have finalities, right? I hate Disney. I hate Orlando. Why do you hate Orlando? I like every other part of Florida, but I hate Orlando. And I was like, who hates Orlando?
Right. The most
Orlando's
magical place on earth.
I'm like, it's such a good place. And then and so it was funny when I told the story on my show, and one of my listeners was like, you're too good, Dan, time to move on. And it was like a guy that I don't even know that well, but it's that's what dating has become. You sit down with these people and they have lists, Andrea. I don't know if you know about these, but they have lists, and they'll list things off. I had a girl tell me, if you don't check all my boxes, then God's telling me you're not the right one. I'm like, well, you're going to find a guy that checks all your boxes, and he'll be like a serial killer, or he'll have a wife in another neighborhood or something. But she was looking for somebody she's like, I'll know he's the one when he does like everything I want. And I was like, well, what about what he wants? Compromise is a beautiful thing. You're not going to the grocery store. And that's why I don't like dating apps, because dating apps are like, I want carrots, not pickles. I want chips, not dip, and that's the swipe left, swipe right. I mean, I had a buddy tell me, oh, you're not taking the right pictures. You got to take them from this angle. And I was like, this is exhausting to me. Like, if you don't like my face, keep moving.
Right.
If you don't like what I do I had a girl tell me right off the bat, I hate sports. I was like,
Well,
okay.
this is what you do for a living, right? So that's not going to work, right?
I was like,
But I
okay.
do think that you can feel a spark with somebody right off the bat. Like, I'm not saying love at first sight. I'm just saying I feel like
Yeah.
in date number one, you
Mhm.
feel some sort of connection, right? Otherwise, there's really no reason to go out on a second date. Now, the exception to the rule is this. I remember having a friend who was going out with two guys. She had like a date each week, whatever. She was trying to date. And she immediately was more attracted to the bad guy. I would call him more the bad guy leaning. Now, I'm not saying he was a bad guy. I'm just saying it was a little bit more of like a inconsistency, good looking, like
Bad guy adjacent.
probably would have been a bad guy long term, right? And then
Yeah.
there was the other guy who was like good guy, whatever. By the way, she failed to mention he was super handsome. So let me just throw that out there. She didn't mention
The good guy?
that. So she made it seem like the good guy was a little bit boring, right?
Okay.
Flash forward a few weeks, bad guy hurts her, she's confused, like whatever, goes out with Mr. sort of boringish in her mind at the time, because that's where her head was. She was coming out of a traumatic marriage, divorce.
Yeah.
She was used to trauma, right? And I think that sometimes because they're used to trauma, they think they're looking for that still until they meet the nice guy and really say, wait a second, it's not boring because it's calm. It's calm. It's love is supposed to be calm. You know what I mean? So anyway, long story short, she ended up marrying long term the nice guy. And he's a wonderful man, husband, all the great things. But I think in the very beginning, because she was coming out of a traumatic situation, her vision of what love was actually a little skewed.
Yeah. Well, and
And I think that's where a lot of women are. Men too. If you're coming from chaos, your vision of what love is chaos. Until you meet somebody who really calms you, it may seem boring in the moment because you're used to this up, down, highs, lows, whatever.
But there's one of two things that happen when someone is used to chaos. Either they look for it and demand it and let go of the good people, right? Well, there's three things that happen. Either they look for the chaos, so they let go of the good ones, or they find a good one, and one of two things happens when they find the good one. They either create chaos in that good person's life and they pay the negativity forward, or they're like, oh, this is what love is supposed to be. I feel like I get the woman coming out of chaos who then brings the chaos to me. It's not like oh, he's a good man, I should probably relax and not treat him the way I was treated. I can't tell you how many times a girl's described to me her past, and then I stand in front of her and I'm like, okay, well, you became the man you hate because how you treat me is now based on how you talked about him. This is what he did. So, I think it's hard being a good person, man or woman, because people don't want to believe you're real. And even if they do believe you're real, they like uncontrollably shoot flares at your face because it's like this is all they're used to. But I'm going to ask you, I want to get your thoughts on this. So there's two things that happened on my last date. So one of them is when we left, I kind of felt like there wasn't a spark because of the fact that she was like, we had things in common, but she was like to the nth degree. And she said something to me that made me really uncomfortable before we even went on the date. She's like, I want to be a parent, but if I knew my kid was going to be born with like some type of defect or special needs, I don't think I'd want to deal with that child. And I was like, okay, that sounds horrible. And then we sat and she was making comments about people. And I'm not the type of person that likes to, I'll talk about situations, but I'm not the type of person that likes to like sit there and make fun of people like, oh, look at that guy, look at that guy.
Right.
And she did that. And when I left, instead of thinking like, oh, I want to see her again, I was thinking I left way too many nachos on the table. Like I paid for all those nachos and I didn't eat a lot of those nachos. That's what I was thinking. So let me throw this to you. First date, I always go in for the kiss. Always do. This one I told myself I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I don't care what she does. So she's at the table, she's putting on lip gloss in front of me. I'm like, not doing it. Then she's like, do you want gum? Gum, not doing it. Drives me back to my car in her car, not doing it. So I didn't do it. I gave her a hug and I walked away. But again, you know, I felt like we were just very different people. But here's the question that I want to ask that a lot of people want to ask. Do you go in for the kiss on the first date?
Do I?
I'm asking if you should. I'm asking your opinion. Because I'm the type of person where my buddy told me, he goes, I'm really bad at starting it off, but I'm good at keeping it going. Where he's like, I don't know how you do it, how you just like, he's like, you're like an animal. I said, no, I'm not. I'm just confident. There's no animalistic. I don't like jump on her. You just give her a nice kiss. You tell her to have a good night. But he's like, I can't get over the hump to do that. I can do it. I don't even really think about it unless I tell myself I'm not going to do it, which is what I did this last time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's been a long time since I dated. I didn't at the time do that. However, I think that two things.
Yeah, go ahead.
You knew the person before.
Yeah.
You already had a rapport,
Yeah.
connection, friendship.
Yeah, you don't just
And
kiss a total stranger.
Right. And you're now going into your first date together, like to take this romantically. That's different. That's when almost like you're hoping that they do that. Now, if it's somebody that you met offline, you've never met in person, maybe you guys have talked a whole lot, though you've already built like kind of a romantic connection, then sure. But if it's somebody that like, okay, you met, I'm making this up, but like, let's say you met them at a bar on a Friday night, you got their number, you talked to them during the week a couple times, asked them if they wanted to go out, you go out. Like, do you feel romantically connected up enough in that first dinner to give them a kiss? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be the moment. And if you feel like it's the right thing
Or like
to,
a blind date. Like, no,
oh,
I
yeah,
don't want to kiss anybody from a blind. No,
there was one girl that kept asking me to come inside from a blind date. And I
no.
sat in my car and I looked through the windshield and I waved. I was like, I'm good. I'm going to be all right. You just have a great day. Yeah.
And you can always tell when they don't want to too. Cause like literally it's like that, hey, I got to get going. I got to get to work kind of vibe or whatever. And then the girl at that point should know that he's definitely not that into me. But there's a book about that too, by the way. He's not that into you. It's a great book. And I read it when I was younger and it was a great movie. And
it's a very annoying
literally
movie
lived by it.
because it's real.
It's so real. And right. I remember going through breakups at a young age when that book came out. And I remember being like to my friends, like, have you read the book? Here's the book. Borrow my book. It'll get you, you'll understand it.
Well, and that's the thing is like, I tell people that, you know, the things that are supposed to be signs kind of going off of that movie and that book, the signs of, okay, this is what means she's into me. This is what this is what it means if he's into me.
Yeah.
There's girls that I've talked to where there's all these signs of they're into you, right? And then they do nothing and they ghost you and they disappear. And it leaves you thinking, okay, well, if up is down and down is down, then what is up? And you don't really know anymore in today's dating because it's like, she gave you her number, she flirted with you, she put her hand on your shoulder, she said, let's go get a drink, and then nothing happened. So as a guy, you're like, why would you give a number to somebody you don't want to talk to? I don't give my number to people I don't want to talk to.
Maybe she's playing hard to get. See if you really like her.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'll try once or
twice. Unfortunately, books and all that shit tells women to do that too. They're like, okay, don't call him first, sit back, wait to see if he really likes you. A man, like this one gets me. Because it's so true and so hurtful at the same time, I think, for a woman, is that a man is not going to let you go if he really wants to be with you. Men are going to chase after you. They're never going to let a good woman go if they really want to be with her. Right. And that's hurtful because somebody may care about you, but like, you have to face that fact as a woman that like, he must not really be that into me, or I must not be the one for him if he's willing to let me go. Like my husband, when we broke up for like a year before we got married. And let me tell you something, he was out dating, doing other stuff. And that's fine because we weren't together. But like that whole time, he was telling everybody, if she would come back to me though, I'm going to get her back. Like, I'm going to get her back. And he stood by it. He was like, I'm going to get her back. I'm going to get her back. And like, when we got back together, he was no longer playing house. He was like, all right, I had a year apart. I know what it's like out there now. I'm getting married. I'm proposing all these things. And it was like, that rings true for me. He was not going to let me go. But it also tells me that people of my past that I thought I really loved, at the time, it's another one people say, is like when people tell you you deserve better, believe them because they're speaking from experience. You do deserve better. You do, you know? And I remember at a young age, that is hard to face because you want to make excuses. You're like, well, they love me. They said they love me, all these things. And you're like, well, they just need to come around. They just need to come around. Well, I am the one who got, lucky in the sense that Josh did come around. He did change his mind and be like, I really want her back. But I think the difference was too, I wasn't sitting there pining and waiting on it.
Yeah.
Whereas in past relationships, I definitely was hoping they would come back.
Yeah.
Well,
and you said something that that I say all the time, and I said it to my ex that stared at the wall is the best way to describe her. But I said it to her, and it was this harsh reality that I had to live with. And every time I said it to her, she got mad at me because I was outing her. Yeah. I said women, I said it from my perspective. So for women less than men, but I said women go after what they want. Women go after what they want. I have seen women chase down men. They're drug addicts, cheat on them 1,000 times, beat them. They will run after the man that they want, even if this man should be in jail. And here's this woman who's dating me, and we lived in different states. And she's like, I'm going to come, up to you. I have an apartment. You have a house. You built your career there. So I'm going to apply for a license. I'm going to move up there. I'm going to apply for jobs. And months and months and months went by, and she was looking for people to tell her that, oh, they say that you're making me move too fast. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I just said, either or get off the pot, because I'm not going to sit here and wait. But, every time I said to her, if you loved me, you would have fought for this. You would have done something about it. You wouldn't let it go. And I just had this conversation with my buddy, and we were talking, and I said, hey, he knew the girl I was talking to. And I said, dude, what I realized, because I've grown as a human being, or I'd like to think I have, is that at 37 years old, I realized I had these really good, and this girl's older than me. I said, I had these really good conversations with her, but I realized we had really great conversations, but I always called.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Let's see if I don't call, if she calls me and we have a really good conversation. And then weeks went by. And then, I get a message, like, because she was supposed to be coming in town, and I get a message like, hey, how are you? How's your family? And then I was like, I'm kind of over this, because I've learned my lesson that women go after what they want. And so I was like, you know what? Just for giggles here, I'll give a call. She didn't answer. She texted me back, I'll call you back tonight. And she didn't, because I know that her story to her family is going to be, he didn't chase me. He didn't come after me. I like to be chased, because I know that I was told that about her. But in reality, for me, it was, when you're coming into town and you and I have talked a bunch and you want to see me, I took a step back and said, okay, if we have so much fun talking to each other, let's see if she calls. She didn't call. I'm the type of guy now at 37, where if you don't call me and weeks go by, I don't care if you are the greatest, whatever. I know you don't want this, because if you wanted it, you would have texted me, you would have called, because ego goes to a certain extent. And if the people that have crazy egos, then whatever, God be with them. But ego goes to a certain extent. And when somebody wants something, think about it. If you know something's bad for you, like, I shouldn't have, 20 pieces of candy a day. But if you want 20 pieces of candy, you're going to eat that candy.
Yeah, you're going to eat that candy. Yeah.
Right.
I agree with you. I think people ultimately do what they want to do. And sometimes you got to sit back and see what they want to do, because that's what they'd rather do. And that's the reality. And listen, it's hurtful and it's hard to admit that to yourself. But that is one thing, like, I stand by people's actions. When words do not align with actions, that's not going to work for me, because I am all that I say I am, all the time. Like, I sacrifice for people that I love. I drop things for people that I love so that I can do things for people that I love. You know what I mean? It's like, I agree with you. And if she really wanted to pursue the relationship and see where it was going to go, she 100%, I'm not saying she would have moved, but I'm 100% she would be really trying to keep the spark there and alive, of the simple fact of, like, weighing out her options, because moving is scary. Okay. Moving is scary. But, like, she 100% would be, like, actively, listen, my best friend, she had a baby and moved to Connecticut on a whim, a Florida girl, for her now fiance, boyfriend, or whatever, husband, whatever. But it was like love at first sight. Honestly, they dated long distance for a year, and then she left, and that was scary for her. But for the man that she loves and the life that she wants,
Yeah.
you gotta go. You gotta go.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I always look at women in dating like how I looked at my career.
Yep.
I wanted it. I
Yes.
built this thing. I'm like, literally, God and I built
Yes.
this out of thin air. I was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to be on? You're leaving traditional radio. And I looked in front of me and I went like this. I went, God, we're going to take this air, we're going to mold it together, and we're going to turn it into something. Now it's tangible. Now, if I
Yeah.
went out of town, I'm like, hey, you fill in, you do the show. Here's the studio. This is what you do. Here's the presets. Here's the hotkeys. Here's the commercial breaks. Here are the people you have to talk to. There's meetings. So it wasn't tangible, but I wanted it. I literally dreamt it into reality with God's help. And I always say God gets 1,000,000% and I'll take 0.0000 whatever. But going
Well, and then you
after,
found me.
and then I found you. Yeah.
I mean, then you found me
Right. And my
on a
my
whim.
thought on a whim was, hey, she's posting positive stuff. I'm posting positive stuff. She looks like somebody that I feel like I could reach out to and maybe do something with, see if it works. And when I asked you to do the conversation, when I asked you to just come on the show that one time, I was like, let me just see this. But I trust my gut. And my gut said, out of all the people that are out there, say something to her. And if it doesn't work, fine. But if it does, just do it. And then never did I think that it was going to turn into this thing where I'm watching movies and like I told you before we went on the air, of just like people doing a show together. And I'm like, they have good chemistry. We have
Yeah.
good chemistry. And
Well, and you didn't know I had any radio background either.
I didn't. I
Like until
honestly,
we,
I did this thinking to myself, like, let's just do it. Let's talk about
yeah,
positivity and taking care of your body and mental health and all that stuff. And then it turned into, you know what? I really have a lot of fun. And then when we're doing the reels on Instagram,
so fun.
we have moments in the show where I'm like, she thought that I was saying that I wanted to like have sex with a zombie. You know what I mean? And it's
I
moments
know.
like that where you're like, what? Or
I
when
know. I know when I watch the clips of the show, sometimes like the little reel clips, they're so funny. I mean, honestly, not to get off the dating stuff, but we can definitely say that 2022 is full of surprises because I did not.
yeah,
And I've told this story before. The first time, you asked me to do the interview, I was like, huh? Like, okay, all right, and who would have thought that it would have turned into us having, conversations and reporting weekly and things like that. I mean, I think that it's a very positive, we thought we were talk about positivity in your body. We don't talk about our bodies at all. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we talk about everything else, but I think that going into 2023, what a fun, positive thing for both of us to have, something new and exciting to, kind of chase after.
yeah, and it's to me, I trust myself and I trust that, like I've told you before, there's something here that sounds different and it has just a difference to it and I get excited for it. And I'm the type of person where I always love creating. And the fact that like I am like, yeah, we did that show, together in the same place. But now I'm like, okay, we got to do that again. We got to go on
Yeah.
site somewhere else. We got to sit and just have those two microphones and just talk. And that's
Yeah.
why I told people on December 30th, I said, this is the final show scheduled in our normal slot of 2022. But I have a trick up my sleeve. And this was the trick up my sleeve is that as the ball is dropping, why don't we talk with you all from our perspective about, the insanity that we have. But so I want to get into this. I want to ask you this before we go. New Year's stories, because I never had like a true New Year's kiss until like it was like it might have been into college I was out of college. Like I never had a true I usually spent New Year's with my grandparents and my parents and we had like lentil soup, as a sign of good luck and good faith going into the new year. So I was normally with my family and then if I was dating anybody, around the holidays, you could kind of figure out if things were serious or not.
Right.
But I really didn't have much when it came to like a New Year's kiss. And
Mhm.
then I had somebody kind of like try to do something up nice, but she was like a detached person. So it was like she did something nice, but there wasn't a lot of emotion to it. So then I'm like, eh. And then like my ex-wife, we would watch the ball drop. And I remember like one night, like she kissed me when the ball dropped, and I was like more excited to see Bruno Mars on TV. Like it was so I'm 37 and I'm going, okay, now I've had New Year's kisses. I can't say I didn't, I have.
Mhm.
But of all my New Year's that I remember that week kiss with the ex-wife. I remember that like kind of emotionally detached moment with that one ex. And I remember the one girl who was talking to another guy as the ball was dropping in front of my family and I, which was insane. So at 37, I don't think I've had like a true like, wow, New Year's. Yeah, let's do something fun. So I don't have that like New Year's, oh yeah, story. I have a pretty good story, but I still feel like New Year's kisses have been way underrated for me. So I wanted to hear your New Year's stories, if you have any.
Well, first, let me ask you this: have you ever gone to Times Square for New Year's Eve?
No, I wanted to. So I was just
Yeah.
down in New York City and my little brother's down there and he's my cousin. I call him my little brother. So Nico's down there and him and I were talking about it. I actually took a video because I've never seen this. And to me, this was like a movie. It was a sign flashing on the highway. It said, stay away from Times Square from like, on New Year's Eve and take this
That's your
route. Whatever.
sign. That's your sign to
Yeah.
never to not go.
Yeah, to not go. But I told him, I said, if I could be on the roof of a building,
Yeah.
something like that, I would go. But if I
Yep.
was standing with all those people and I couldn't go to the bathroom for like 9 hours, that's a hard no for me. That's a pass. I would go to Times Square, but in the right situation. Like bring me in a helicopter, land me on the roof of something and let me
Right.
watch it. But
Right.
beyond that, it's a no. Like you
Yeah.
and I should broadcast on the roof of a building one year, but
Okay.
I'm not standing with all those people. No.
Yeah. Fun fact. When he asked me first about doing a New Year's Eve broadcast, I was like what time are you thinking? Because I'll probably be asleep.
Yeah.
Uh, just tell the truth. No, let me think. So I don't have anything that I can fully be like, oh my God, this best New Year's. But I do know that, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I was kind of like a party girl all the way through my 20s.
Yeah.
And even like my husband, my now husband, we went out a lot when we were younger and before we got married. So it was probably one of the first, probably I would have to say probably the first year we started dating in Halloween. And I would say that first few months of like dating is so fun and everything. And Josh he was always like super into me, whereas I'd had a lot of cheater type boyfriends before that.
Yeah.
So I remember just, us being out and dressed up with all our friends and like just feeling like somebody was really happy to ring in the new year with you, you know what I mean? But now I'll be honest, you guys, like we don't stay up for it because we have little kids. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like we're like the people that are like, oh my God, I hope the neighbors don't do fireworks. Like
Yeah.
that's us, you know? And I can remember having a newborn around this time. Like my daughter was born 2 weeks before New Year's at the time. And I remember thinking how much I hated our neighbors for doing fireworks. Like I'm totally a downer on those firework holidays. And because the animals, man, think about your
Yeah.
dog. They hate it.
Well, and my thing is like people were testing. So I got back from New York City
Yeah.
right before. And so, here as we're here talking with you, right before I heard people playing music and it was late at night and I was catching up on a TV show and I was binging and just kind of like hanging out watching the TV show. And I hear this like music and I was like, if you're testing your speakers for New Year's, I'm gonna kill you. Like, I
I
mean, it's
know. I know. And then you have to worry about like if when New Year's falls on a weekend,
yeah.
like when it's on a Friday night or even 4th of July, whatever, then you have to, that the next day there's going to be fireworks again.
Well, I had people blowing off fireworks 2 weeks before the 4th of July, during the 4th of July, after the 4th of July, and during the day. I'm like, you can't even see them. You just hear this, like, you hear gunshots, and then you look up at the sky and you can't even see the fireworks. I remember I called because somebody was blowing them off like every 2 hours.
Hopefully
And
they
I
call the cops.
called, what'd you say? Yeah, I called the
Hopefully they
cops.
call the cops.
Yeah, so I called the cops, and the cops were like, yeah, a ton of people have called us and they've said it. They're like, can you actually physically tell us where? And like, will you take a report? And will you do? I was like, I'm literally telling you where I am and where it is. So just drive over there and do
You'll
something.
see it. Yeah.
And they're like, well, we could get a lot farther with a report. I'm like, or you could just drive to where you heard it. If you heard gunshots, you knew that they were over in that region, would you tell someone they needed a report before you drove to the gunshot? So just go to the place, know where it is. I think it's this park, do something about it. And this lady was making it so difficult on the phone. And she's like, well, we don't know the exact region. And I was like, we're not in the middle of Madagascar. Just go find it.
It's not even legal in a lot of counties.
Oh,
but
no.
the problem is people, will say that they're buying it for livestock or whatever, for farming reasons. But my thought is this, and I know I'm going to get flack for this because people love celebrating. They're like, just have a good time, whatever. But like, I do think about the animals and stuff. Like 4th of July and New Year's Eve are the number 1 and 2 most, and I think Halloween's in there too because the doorbell ringing. But 1 and 2 like worst days for dogs and animals to get lost from their homes because they get so scared. There's parties going on and they scurry out the door and then they're lost from their family. And then I also think about like the little Bambis and the deer in the woods, like how terrified they must be hearing those loud booms.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I know. And listen, I know it doesn't sound like I'm American and festive and all these things, and I am. It's just, I believe in this. I believe in this. Bear with me. Mm-hmm. The city does a magnificent showing. Yeah. And if you want to see it, there's 2 places in town that you can go. One this way. Yes. These honky tonk people in the cul-de-sacs doing these massive things. I just can't. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I can't stand it.
I wouldn't trust these people to hold a pencil for me. And
then someone gave lost fingers and stuff. The one athlete.
Right. But that's my thing, Jason Pierre-Paul. But that's my thing with fireworks is more than 50% of the people that have bought these things, I don't trust with anything.
They're drinking while they're doing it, lighting off explosives. I mean, what is safe about that? And look like, by the way, we look like total prudes right now. People are probably going to watch us and be like, I hope all your listeners agree with us though. And if you do, put it in the comments. We want to know.
We're saying what they want to say. Okay.
I hope so.
We're saying what they want to say because I mean, I might have some people going, "Damn, let me live my life, damn it." But I was like, but I don't, my thing is
the Florida fans.
I mean, but the reality to me is shout out Deltona, what up? But my thing with these people is that's the first thing that was on my mind this year on the 4th of July. I'm like, these people shouldn't be trusted with anything. I wouldn't trust them to watch my kids. I wouldn't trust them to, like I said, hold a pencil for me. I wouldn't trust them to be like, hey, while I tie my shoe, can you not back up and hit me because I'm in front of your driveway? I trust them with nothing. And then you hand them fireworks and then you go, hey, in what world do we take non-professionals and give them professional explosives? There's nothing else in society. We don't say like, oh, you can go to Walmart and buy a grenade. Like you know what I mean? It's like you train the military to use military weapons. You don't train civilians to use explosives, yet we hand it to them. And so now I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just give everybody like sticks of dynamite and let them all go to train tracks and do like the old Westerns? It doesn't make any sense. So
I live off an exit off I-95 that has like one of those big phantom fireworks locations.
Oh yeah.
Mobbed with people, by the way. Yeah. And this area has built up a lot. But at the time, years ago, like this is how this road was known from the phantom fireworks, I'm like, it's just ridiculous. It's stupid. And people spend $400,000, $500,000 on these things. It's like, what? Dude, if you need something else to do with your money, I can give you a lot of ideas. But that is a waste.
I feel like people that spend that much money on fireworks are also people that spend $11 on cigarette packs.
We're being very judgmental, but amen. I agree. That might be one of them. That's a very judgmental statement to make, but I am here for it and I approve and I agree.
Right. I mean, all I'm saying is, if I was smoking cigarettes and they were $11, when I was growing up, they were $3. Eventually I would think like I should probably stop smoking. Why? Because you could die and you could kill people around you. But then you should probably stop smoking because if for nothing else, if you don't care about dying, it's really expensive. And normally when you talk about people's money, they care about it. Obviously it was a joke, folks. Don't get mad at me. If you smoke, I pray the best for you. If you light off fireworks,
we're not judging. Do you?
Do you? I've never
Do
been
you?
a judgmental person. I'm not
No.
here to judge. So it was a joke. I know in
Totally.
2022 jokes are canceled, but I want people to just relax and have a good time with it. If you smoke cigarettes, do it away from me. And if you blow out fireworks, do it away from me too. So final note here, our aspirate, because we'll get into some other stuff that we were going to talk about. There's some of these I want to hold on to for next time.
Yeah.
But aspirations for 2023, you said that you're looking forward to our show, which warms my heart. Thank you, Andrea. What else are you
This is
excited
one of my
about?
things I'm most looking forward to, actually, is this. This is like totally reignited my original plans when I was in radio when I was very young. So this is very fun. And I just, like, I think I mentioned to you earlier, like, I just hope that I continue to make time for my friends and that level, that side of my life, because obviously I'm going to keep making time for my family and my husband and my kids and all that, but I want to keep making time to do me too. You know, that's like, it's been a huge win for me as from a personal level, is just to kind of take that time. So I'd say that was it. And for me, what about you?
I would say 2023. I would say to continue to do things to take care of my mental and physical health. I would say to re-energize some of the things I was doing. I would say to stay open-minded, to care less about when love is going to happen, let it happen, because it's super annoying to care about it all the time and think about it all the time. So I'd say don't think about it anymore. And what else would I say to myself? I would say just relax and have fun. I've learned a lot over the years and I've gotten better at stuff, but I would say hold true to the things you've learned, stay healthy as hard as it is. Keep the outside noise outside and don't let this world get to you because you've worked so hard for it to not get to you. So don't let it get to you and continue to be a beacon of hope for people that are going through that. So I would say in a very honest thing, love myself, be good to myself, believe in things, trust in God, be a better follower. And I'm really excited about our show too, because I think we're doing a lot of things that can help people.
Yeah.
We're helping people to laugh. We're helping people to think. We're telling them the God's honest truth, which they may not like at first, but they're going to like later on. And, we're bringing comedy in. And like I told you, something happened with us doing this Two Mics, No Filter that has turned into something that I really believe in. So I'm excited to see where we take it. And I'm really happy that you joined me on this.
Yeah, me too. And listen, if the listeners, if they want more of it, like, let me know, let us know. Like, right now, what are we doing? Bi-weekly shows?
We were doing, we did like week to week, and then we had been doing bi-weekly. So we'll discuss what 2023 is going to bring for us. Cause I feel like there could be a weekly slot that I may have opened up for us.
Yeah,
I may have done something where I'm like, this could make perfect sense. So I may have already started to move it over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we hope to have more of this for sure for the listeners and just for us too. I think it's good therapy for us.
Oh yeah.
From two different perspectives, single, married, all the places in life, you know what I mean, that you could be right now and still have, still have all the feelings that people have. You don't just go one way or the other and not have still internal struggles or things that you're working through.
Yeah. And there's nothing like telling, stories about about all the things that we've been through, all the fun stuff.
Let's say our aspirations and our hopes for 2023 is that you don't date any more strange behavioral people.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would love to not date any more crazy people. I think that I have enough material to tour the planet 3 times. I think I'm good.
Well, I am, that is my biggest hope for 2023.
Yeah. My hope for both of us is health, safety, and happiness, and that life is a long life, a beautiful life, and that we appreciate our moments. I hope that for everybody watching and listening. And this is Two Mics, No Filter on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. As always, Andrea, thank you. And I get to say this to you in a really awesome way because I'm excited to do this. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody.